You guys know the feeling. You wake up in the morning, you got that same aching pain in your chest. The headache is back. You know, you're tired. You know, it feels like your legs have weights on them. You know, you feel like making your bed is an impossible task. Brushing your teeth is an impossible task. Taking a shower is an impossible task. Talking to somebody about the way you feel is an impossible task. So you sit there. You let everything build up. You let everything start to drown. And then you pick up your pillow and you scream into it. Because you have no energy left. You're tired of it all. You know, and maybe that's exactly the way it is. Maybe that's the way it'll always be. You know, maybe if you want to do something in this life as you get older, you have to do it tired. Maybe there will never be another time where you're not. You know, because when you're youthful, when you're young, you have all the energy in the world. You know, and then one day you turn a certain age and you're sprinting into the store because you're late. And then your legs become wobbly. And your chest starts to hurt. And you start to realize that you're weaker than you were. You know, when you bend down to pick something up, your back hurts. I always ask myself a similar question all the time whenever I'm outside. I ask myself, why do birds always stay in the same spot even though they could fly anywhere? You know, and then I kind of ask myself the same question. Why I stay in the same spot? Why I don't want to go anywhere or talk to anybody, move around, or even give the world a chance to let me fail. You know, because you realize something, everyone. You realize that as long as you don't get out there, as long as you don't give the world a chance to let you fail, it won't. You know, you'll sit in your room all day, you'll play your video game, you'll scroll on TikTok, and you'll hit your vape. And eventually, that becomes your only friend. You know, you have no one else. You know, you're tired of being tired. You know, you go to sleep tired. You wake up even more tired. You know, never giving yourself the chance to actually get out there. You know, but why not actually get outside? You know, because I'll tell you right now, I was just sitting inside too. And now that I'm outside in the sun, I feel a lot better. You know, when you get around people that actually like you, you know, you want to go where you are celebrated in this life, not just tolerated by the people around you, okay? I don't think anybody will actually know the violence that it has taken for you to become that gentle. For you to actually move slowly, you know, because you realize that that life doesn't slow down for anybody. You know, you realize that you could stop every single thing that you're doing. But it doesn't mean the world is going to. You know, I mean, the world doesn't need you to continue moving on. You know, eventually you realize that your life is real. You know, and that any day could be your last. You know, but I don't know what your biggest fear is. You know, but something that's pretty scary is your last day on earth. It's when the person you are finally meets the person you were supposed to become. You know, all the things you didn't do, all the dreams you never chased, all the times you said you were tired and never got out of bed and never gave life a chance. You know, because in reality, everybody, you could be the sweetest peach on the tree, but it doesn't mean that every single person is going to like you. That's not what I meant. You could be the sweetest peach on the tree, but it doesn't mean every single person is going to like peaches, okay? You wake up in the morning knowing, sure, not every single person I approach today is going to like me, but I will try to talk to them anyway. I will approach them anyway with curiosity. I'm not going to go out there and succeed in every single thing that I do, but I'll try anyway, you know? Like I said before, everybody, you have to do things tired, okay? Everybody is tired, okay? Even if they don't want to admit it or not. You know, tired of it all, tired of the world, tired of being tired, like I said. I know the people, the ones that go and they scroll on TikTok, Instagram, and they compare their own behind the scenes to everybody else's highlights. Stop comparing your real to their real, because it doesn't matter. Nothing does. And I'm not saying that to get you down. I'm saying that to enlighten you, to try to show you, to try to prove to you that you don't need to prove anything to anybody, not even yourself, so as long as you go out there inside of this life and you focus on improving yourself every day, because progress is always progress. Even if you just wake up in the morning and made your bed and you didn't yesterday, or even if you wake up in the morning and you had breakfast today and you didn't yesterday, everybody, they always tell you give 100%, give 100%, give 110, go hard every day. But you're not crazy if you wake up in the morning and you're not excited for another day. Sometimes I don't go to bed, simply because I am not ready for the next day. I'm not ready for tomorrow. Even though I know tomorrow always comes, I'm not ready. That's why you have to take the chance. You have to realize that, sure, things are going to hurt. Your back is going to hurt. People and things around you are going to try to stop you from doing what it is you want to do. But if you can get out there and be the person you wish you had, stop claiming to have so much love and finally give some to yourself, maybe things could be a little bit different. Everybody is tired. That's no secret. But stop sitting in the same spot, wanting to change, wanting to be somewhere different, because let's say you could snap your fingers and be wherever it is you wanted to be. I guarantee you would probably still feel that way about yourself, because it's not about where you are in this life, it's about who you are, and you cannot escape that. You cannot run from that. Life is hard, okay? Nobody said it was easy. But if you go out there and you continue to make easy choices, you're going to have a hard life. But if you can go out there and make the difficult choice, the hard choice, your life will get easier. Life is always about problems, the next one and the next one and the next one. But all I'm trying to say, everybody, is that if you get out there and as long as you can give your 20% today, or your 10% or your 5%, that is 100%. Okay, and I don't want anybody, anywhere, or anything to tell you otherwise. Okay, because sometimes even just living is the bravest act of anything. The biggest act of courage is just living. Being brave enough to exist loudly, to be able to actually express your opinion, your wants and needs. Not a lot of people do. You see, everybody dies, but not everybody lives. And one day, all of this will come to a stop. Kind of like a single frame in a movie that never ends. So try to make it worth it. Try to make your life worth it. Even if it doesn't seem like it is, even if you're down and out and have nothing left, there's always a chance. There's always a chance. So I understand you're tired. I understand you don't want to keep moving. But you have to. Sometimes you need to put the stuff down. You need to unrip the hooks out of your body, not because you're weak. Not because they're too heavy, not because it wasn't important, not because it doesn't matter, but because you do. Your life matters. So rip off the hooks, get out there, be yourself, and try your best to try your best. It's okay to be tired of it all, but what's not okay is giving up, quitting. Because if you quit, it's very easy to predict your future. Very easy to predict what happens next. So get out there, stay positive, enjoy the day, get outside, get around some good people, and everything will be fine.